What if your security camera showed you tomorrow? Not a prediction, not a dream, not a warning. An actual recording of events that haven't happened yet. One ordinary morning, store owner Jacob Reed watches his security footage and sees a customer drop a red wallet behind a display shelf. There's only one problem. The footage is timestamped 6 hours in the future. Jacob thinks it's a glitch, until the exact same customer walks into his store later that day, drops the same wallet, in the same place, at the exact same second. Suddenly, the impossible becomes real. But the camera doesn't stop there. It starts showing robberies before they happen, accidents before they occur, a citywide disaster before anyone knows it's coming. And worst of all, Jacob eventually sees footage of himself running for his life from something the camera refuses to fully reveal. Now, he faces a terrifying question. If you could see the future, would you try to change it, even if every change made things worse? Stay with this story until the end, because what Jacob discovers about the camera, the missing hour, and the shocking truth behind the future will completely change everything you think you know about time. Story introduction. Welcome to another Learn English Through story. Today's story is a gripping mystery filled with suspense, technology, hidden secrets, unexpected twists, and a future that refuses to stay the same. You'll follow Jacob Reed, an ordinary convenience store owner whose life changes forever when a security camera begins recording events exactly 24 hours before they happen. As the mystery grows deeper, Jacob uncovers secret experiments, dangerous conspiracies, a missing hour that no camera can record, and a disaster that could affect an entire city. This story is perfect for improving your English listening, vocabulary, and comprehension, while enjoying a thrilling adventure from beginning to end. So relax, improve your English, and prepare yourself for a story that asks one unforgettable question. What would you do if tomorrow was already recorded today? The security camera that recorded the future begins now. Chapter 1. The Impossible Footage. Learn English Through Story, Level 3. Jacob Reed had owned his convenience store for almost 8 years. It wasn't a large business. The store sat on a quiet corner in the middle of Brookhaven, a small city where most people knew each other by name. Jacob sold groceries, snacks, drinks, newspapers, and everyday items. The work wasn't exciting, but it was honest. Most days followed the same routine. Open the store at 7 in the morning, serve customers, restock shelves, check inventory, close at 10 at night. Repeat. It was a simple life, and Jacob liked it that way. At 34 years old, he had learned to appreciate ordinary days. Ordinary days rarely brought trouble. Unfortunately, the day that changed everything started as one of the most ordinary mornings imaginable. Jacob arrived at the store shortly before 7 o'clock. The sun was just beginning to rise. The streets were quiet. A few commuters hurried toward the train station. A delivery truck parked outside a bakery across the street. Nothing unusual, nothing remarkable, nothing that hinted at what was about to happen. He unlocked the front door, stepped inside, and switched on the lights. The familiar buzz of fluorescent lamps filled the store. Everything looked normal. Rows of shelves stood neatly arranged. The refrigerator units hummed softly. The coffee machine waited near the counter. Jacob smiled. Another normal day. Or so he believed. One of his first tasks every morning involved checking the security cameras. The system monitored both the inside and outside of the store. It wasn't because crime was common. Jacob simply preferred being careful. The cameras helped him review deliveries, resolve customer misunderstandings, and occasionally identify shoplifters. Most mornings, he watched a few minutes of footage from the previous night. Usually, nothing interesting appeared. Tonight would be different. Very different. Jacob sat behind the counter and turned on the security monitor. 6 camera feeds appeared on the screen. Parking lot, front entrance, snack aisle, cash register, storage room, rear alley. Everything looked normal. He selected the front entrance camera and began reviewing footage from the night before. The recording moved smoothly. Customers entered. Customers left. Hours passed without incident. Exactly what he expected. Then something strange happened. The video timestamp changed. Instead of showing footage from the previous night, the monitor displayed 3:15 p.m. Jacob frowned. That wasn't possible. It was only 8:57 a.m. 3:15 in the afternoon hadn't happened yet. That's weird. He tapped the keyboard. The timestamp remained unchanged. Perhaps the system clock was malfunctioning. Old equipment sometimes developed strange issues. It wasn't a major concern, at least not yet. Jacob continued watching. The camera showed the store entrance. Sunlight streamed through the windows. Several customers moved between aisles. Everything appeared completely ordinary. Then a woman entered the store. Jacob immediately recognized her. Her name was Mrs. Collins. She lived nearby and purchased groceries several times each week. "Okay," Jacob muttered. The woman pushed her shopping cart toward a display stand near the entrance. Then something happened. Her cart accidentally struck the display. Several bags of chips fell to the floor. Mrs. Collins apologized to someone nearby, bent down, picked up the fallen items, and continued shopping. Jacob stared. The event seemed trivial, completely unimportant, yet something felt strange. The footage continued. A few moments later, Mrs. Collins removed her wallet while checking a shopping list. The red wallet slipped from her hand, fell behind the display stand, and disappeared from sight. Mrs. Collins never noticed. She continued shopping, paid for her groceries, and left, without her wallet. Jacob frowned. "How could I miss that yesterday?" Then he remembered. He hadn't missed it, because yesterday hadn't happened yet. The realization made him laugh. Okay, now something's definitely wrong. The camera system clearly had a glitch. A bizarre one, but still a glitch. Jacob closed the recording and restarted the software. Several minutes later, everything seemed normal again. The timestamp displayed the correct date, the correct time. Problem solved, or so he thought. The morning passed quickly. Customers arrived, coffee was sold, newspapers disappeared from the rack. The store became busy. By noon, Jacob had almost forgotten about the strange footage. Almost. Around 2 o'clock, Mrs. Collins entered the store. Jacob froze. She wore the same blue jacket, carried the same shopping bag, even her hairstyle matched exactly. His pulse quickened slightly. No, coincidence. Nothing more. Still, he found himself watching carefully, very carefully. Mrs. Collins pushed her cart toward the entrance display. Jacob suddenly remembered every detail from the recording. 3:15, display stand, fallen chips, lost wallet. The clock above the register read 3:14 p.m. A strange feeling settled in his stomach. Then it happened. The cart struck the display. Several bags of chips fell. Mrs. Collins apologized, bent down, picked them up. Exactly. Every movement matched the recording. Jacob's mouth went dry. No. He stared, unable to look away. The scene continued. Mrs. Collins reached into her purse, removed her red wallet, and dropped it. The wallet slid behind the display stand. Just as the footage predicted, every second, every detail, every movement. Jacob felt a chill run through his body. This wasn't coincidence. It couldn't be. The probability was impossible. After Mrs. Collins left, Jacob immediately walked to the display. The red wallet remained there, exactly where the recording showed it. He picked it up slowly. His hands trembled, because there was now only one possible explanation. The camera had shown him the future. The thought sounded insane, completely irrational, impossible. Yet facts remained facts. He had watched the event hours before it happened, and now it had happened exactly as recorded. For the rest of the afternoon, Jacob struggled to concentrate. Customers asked questions he answered automatically. His mind remained fixed on one question. How? Technology couldn't do this. Cameras couldn't do this. Reality couldn't do this. Yet the evidence sat directly in front of him. Around 5 o'clock, curiosity overcame caution. Jacob returned to the security system. Slowly, he opened the same camera feed. The timestamp now displayed, then suddenly changed. Tomorrow. Jacob stopped breathing. The footage showed the store again, but something felt different. The aisles appeared empty, the lighting seemed dimmer, the atmosphere felt wrong. Then the front door opened. A man entered. He wore a black hoodie, dark gloves, and a baseball cap pulled low over his eyes. Jacob didn't recognize him. The stranger moved carefully through the store, almost nervously. Then he approached the register. The footage ended abruptly. Static filled the screen. Jacob stared. The clip lasted only 20 seconds. Yet it left him deeply unsettled. Who was the man? Why was he acting strangely? Why did tomorrow's footage stop before showing what happened next? Questions multiplied faster than answers. That evening, after closing the store, Jacob stayed behind. The security monitor glowed softly in the darkness. Outside, the streets had become quiet. Most businesses were closed. Only distant traffic interrupted the silence. Jacob replayed the footage repeatedly. The mysterious man never changed. Every replay showed the same thing. Enter. Approach the register. Static. End. Nothing more. At around 9:30, Jacob finally decided to leave. As he gathered his belongings, something caught his attention. The monitor flickered. Once, twice, 3 times. Then a completely different image appeared. Jacob froze. The footage showed the inside of the store, but not tomorrow. The timestamp displayed 11:40 p.m. tomorrow. His pulse accelerated. The store looked chaotic. Several shelves had been knocked over, products covered the floor, glass littered the aisles. Something terrible had happened. Then Jacob saw himself. Running. Not walking, not hurrying, running. Pure panic covered his face. Fear. Real fear. Future Jacob sprinted past the camera, looked over his shoulder, and disappeared from view. Seconds later, the screen went black. The recording ended. Jacob stared at the monitor. His heart pounded louder than ever before. Because he knew that expression, he knew exactly what genuine fear looked like. And whatever happened tomorrow night, whatever caused him to run like that, it was something far worse than a lost wallet. Much worse. For a long moment, Jacob remained completely still. The empty store surrounded him, silent, motionless. Yet nothing felt ordinary anymore, because tomorrow had already happened, at least on the screen. And for the first time in his life, Jacob Reed wasn't afraid of the future because he didn't know what would happen. He was afraid because he had already seen it, and what he saw terrified him. End of Chapter 1. Chapter 2. Tomorrow Happens Today. Learn English Through Story, Level 3. Jacob Reed barely slept. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the same image. A future version of himself running through the store in panic. Shelves overturned, glass shattered, fear on his face. Then darkness. The footage had lasted only a few seconds, but it was enough. Enough to keep him awake until sunrise. Enough to make him question everything he thought he knew about reality. Because security cameras were supposed to record the past, not the future. At 6 o'clock the next morning, Jacob was already sitting inside his convenience store. A large coffee rested beside him. The security monitor glowed in front of him. Outside, the city slowly woke up. People headed to work. Delivery trucks filled the streets. The world continued as normal. Yet nothing felt normal anymore. Jacob stared at the monitor. The same camera. The same impossible device. The device that had somehow shown him tomorrow. He still hoped there was another explanation. A software bug. A damaged hard drive. A hidden recording. Anything. Something rational. Something ordinary. Instead, the camera offered him another surprise. At exactly 7:12 a.m. the screen flickered. The timestamp changed. 7:12 a.m. tomorrow. Jacob sat forward immediately. The footage showed the front of the store. A teenage boy entered carrying a skateboard. Jacob recognized him. Tyler, a local high school student. Tyler approached the drink refrigerator, opened the door, grabbed a bottle of orange juice. Then his phone rang. The teenager answered. Even though the camera had no audio, Jacob could see the conversation. Tyler looked surprised, then excited, then shocked. Finally, he raised both hands into the air, celebrating something. A few moments later, he rushed from the store, leaving the orange juice behind. The footage ended. Jacob checked the clock. 7:13 a.m. 1 minute had passed. He immediately wrote everything down. Tyler enters, orange juice, phone call, leaves without buying anything. Then he waited. At first nothing happened. Customers came and went. People purchased coffee. A delivery arrived. Life continued normally. Then at 7:12 a.m. exactly, the front door opened. Tyler entered. Jacob felt his pulse quicken. The teenager walked directly toward the refrigerator, opened the door, and grabbed an orange juice. Exactly as predicted. Jacob stared. No way. Then Tyler's phone rang. The teenager answered. His expression changed. Surprised, excited, shocked. Exactly, exactly, exactly. Then Tyler threw both hands into the air and rushed from the store, leaving the orange juice behind. Jacob stood motionless. The future recording had been perfect. Not close, not similar, perfect. Every detail matched. A chill ran down his spine. This wasn't a glitch. Whatever was happening was real. Very real. By noon, Jacob had witnessed 3 additional future recordings become reality. A customer dropped a bag of apples. A delivery truck arrived 5 minutes late. A woman accidentally left her umbrella near the counter. Every event happened exactly as shown. No mistakes, no deviations, no errors. The camera wasn't predicting the future. It was recording it. That distinction terrified him. Predictions could be wrong. Recordings could not. Around 3 o'clock, Jacob finally decided to tell someone. His best friend Noah Bennett owned a repair shop 2 blocks away. They had known each other for nearly 20 years. If anyone would believe him, it would be Noah, or so Jacob hoped. An hour later, Noah stood behind the counter examining the security monitor. "You haven't slept, have you?" Jacob ignored the question. "Just watch." The screen displayed future footage again. Tomorrow's date, tomorrow's events. Noah laughed. "That's a pretty impressive prank." Jacob sighed. "It isn't a prank." Noah folded his arms. "Then prove it." Jacob nodded. "Wait 5 minutes." They did. 5 minutes later, every event from the recording happened exactly as shown. The same customer, the same purchase, the same conversation, the same mistake. Noah stopped smiling. For several moments, neither man spoke. Finally, Noah whispered, "How is this possible?" Jacob shook his head. "I don't know." Noah continued staring at the screen. "This changes everything." Jacob had been thinking the same thing. Because if someone could see tomorrow, what couldn't they do? Prevent accidents, predict crimes, make money, save lives? The possibilities seemed endless. Yet something about the camera felt wrong, dangerous, like a secret that wasn't supposed to exist. That evening, the monitor flickered again. A new future recording appeared. This one lasted longer, much longer. The timestamp read 9:47 p.m. tomorrow. Jacob immediately focused. The footage showed the store at night. Most customers had already left. The aisles appeared quiet. Then the front door opened. A man entered. Jacob recognized him instantly. The same man from yesterday's recording. Black hoodie, dark gloves, baseball cap. The stranger moved carefully through the store, looking around, checking corners, watching everything. Jacob felt uneasy. The man's behavior seemed deliberate, purposeful, almost predatory. Then the stranger approached the register and pulled something from his jacket. Jacob's blood ran cold. A handgun. The footage froze. Static filled the monitor. Then the screen returned to normal. Silence filled the store. Noah stared. Was that, Jacob nodded, yes, a robbery or something worse? Neither man spoke for several seconds. The situation had suddenly become much more serious. Before, the future recordings were interesting, curious, impossible. Now they were dangerous. Very dangerous. Noah broke the silence. What are you going to do? Jacob looked at the screen. I don't know. But deep down he already knew. He couldn't ignore it. If the footage was real, someone would enter his store tomorrow night carrying a gun, and he would know about it in advance. How could he do nothing? That night, Jacob reviewed the recording repeatedly. The stranger never changed. Same clothing, same movements, same weapon. Eventually, Jacob noticed something unusual. A reflection, visible for only a fraction of a second. Near the front window, someone stood outside, watching. Jacob paused the footage, zoomed in, enhanced the image. The picture remained blurry, yet one detail stood out. The observer appeared to be wearing a long grey coat, and unlike the robber, this person wasn't entering the store. They were simply watching the future event unfold. The discovery made Jacob uncomfortable, very uncomfortable, because now there were two mysteries. The robber and the observer. Who were they, and why did they appear in tomorrow's recording? The following day arrived, the day shown in the footage. Jacob felt nervous from the moment he woke up. Every hour brought him closer to 9:47 p.m., closer to the robbery, closer to the event he had already seen. He considered calling the police, then hesitated. What would he say? A future security recording showed a robbery? No officer would believe that. At best, they would laugh. At worst, they would think he was insane. Instead, Jacob prepared quietly. He installed an additional alarm button beneath the counter, checked every security camera, made sure emergency exits remained accessible, and waited. As evening approached, tension filled the store. The clock seemed to move slower. Every customer felt important. Every sound felt suspicious. Finally, the digital clock above the register displayed 9:46 p.m. Jacob's heart pounded. 1 minute, only 1 minute. Then the front door opened. A customer entered. Not the robber, an elderly woman. She'd purchased a newspaper and left. Jacob checked the time. 9:47 p.m. Nothing happened. For a brief moment, relief washed over him. Maybe the future wasn't fixed. Maybe he had changed something. Then the door opened again, and the man in the black hoodie stepped inside, exactly as recorded. Jacob's stomach dropped. Every detail matched. The clothing, the height, the movements, everything. The stranger moved slowly through the aisles, just like the footage. Jacob's pulse thundered. This was happening. Really happening. The future had arrived. The man approached the counter, reached into his jacket. Jacob prepared himself. Then something unexpected happened. A loud crash echoed outside. Both men turned toward the window. A car had collided with a streetlight. The sound distracted everyone, including the robber. For several seconds, confusion replaced tension. The stranger hesitated, looked outside, then back at Jacob, and suddenly ran. Straight out of the store. Gone. Just like that. Jacob stood frozen. The robbery never happened. At least not completely. The future had changed. Or had it? A moment later, the security monitor flickered. The screen changed automatically, displaying tomorrow's footage once again. Jacob stared. The recording had updated, changed, adapted. The robber no longer appeared. Instead, a completely different event played. Something new. Something far more alarming. The footage showed police cars outside the store, ambulances, emergency lights, crowds gathering. And in the middle of the scene stood Jacob, looking terrified. Then the camera zoomed toward something lying on the ground. A person. Motionless. Jacob couldn't see the face, but he could see enough. Someone was going to get hurt. Very badly. The recording ended. The screen went black. And for the first time since discovering the impossible camera, Jacob realized something truly frightening. The future wasn't fixed. It could change. But every change created a new future, a new recording, a new danger, and somehow every path seemed to lead toward something worse. As the monitor returned to normal, one thought echoed through his mind. If changing the future only created bigger problems, then what exactly was the camera trying to show him? And who or what had created it? End of Chapter 2. Chapter 3. The Robbery That Hasn't Happened Yet. Learn English Through Story, Level 3. Jacob Reed stood alone behind the counter long after closing time. The convenience store was quiet, too quiet. Outside, emergency vehicles had already left the scene of the car accident. The damaged streetlight remained tilted at an awkward angle. Yellow caution tape fluttered gently in the night wind. Most people would have gone home by now. Most people would have tried to forget the strange events of the day. Jacob couldn't, because the impossible security camera had changed again, and this time the future looked even more dangerous. The monitor sat on the counter in front of him, dark, silent, waiting, just like it always did before showing him another piece of tomorrow. Jacob rubbed his tired eyes. 3 days ago, he had been an ordinary store owner. Now he was watching future events unfold before they happened. Events that changed every time he interfered. Events that seemed determined to pull him deeper into a mystery he didn't understand. He replayed the newest recording, again and again and again. Police cars, ambulances, emergency lights, a motionless figure on the ground. Then darkness. That was all. No explanation, no context, no answers. Only questions. Who was lying on the ground? What happened? Why were police involved? And most importantly, could it be prevented? The next morning, Jacob arrived at the store before sunrise. He barely slept. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the flashing emergency lights from the future footage. The image haunted him. At exactly 6:58 a.m., the monitor flickered. Jacob immediately sat forward. Another future recording was beginning. The timestamp read, 6:58 a.m., tomorrow. The footage showed the inside of the store. A normal morning. Customers walked between aisles, coffee machines operated, nothing unusual. Then a young woman entered. Jacob recognized her instantly. Emily Ross. She worked at the bank down the street, a regular customer, friendly, polite, always purchased coffee before work. The footage followed her movements carefully, almost deliberately. Emily grabbed a bottle of water, then approached the counter. Suddenly, a masked man appeared behind her. Jacob's heart skipped. The same robber, the black hoodie, the dark gloves, the baseball cap. But something was different. The man wasn't carrying a gun. Instead, he carried a backpack, a large black backpack. The footage ended before showing what happened next. Jacob stared at the screen. Why was Emily important? Why focus on her? Why show only part of the event? The camera seemed to reveal information selectively, as if it wanted him to see certain details while hiding others. That thought made him uncomfortable, because cameras didn't choose what to show. People did, which meant someone or something might be controlling these recordings. Around 8 o'clock, Noah arrived. His expression immediately revealed concern. "You look terrible." Jacob nodded. "Thanks." Noah laughed briefly, then became serious. "Any new footage?" Jacob showed him the recording. Noah watched silently. When it ended, he frowned. "The woman is important." Jacob nodded. "I think so too. The question is why?" Neither man had an answer. Throughout the day, Jacob observed every customer carefully, more carefully than ever before. Every face, every movement, every conversation. He wasn't searching for thieves anymore. He was searching for clues, and clues seemed increasingly difficult to find. Around noon, something unexpected happened. A man entered the store wearing a long grey coat. Jacob froze. The observer, the same person he had seen standing outside during the future robbery footage. His pulse accelerated immediately. The man appeared to be in his 60s. Grey hair, sharp eyes, calm expression. Nothing about him seemed threatening. Yet Jacob couldn't shake the feeling that he was important. Very important. The stranger approached the counter, purchased a newspaper, then looked directly at Jacob. For several seconds, neither spoke. Then the man smiled, a small smile, almost knowing, and said, "Interesting camera you have." Jacob's blood ran cold. "What?" The stranger's smile widened slightly. "The one in the corner." He pointed toward the future recording camera. Jacob stared. How could he know? The man picked up his newspaper, turned toward the exit, then paused. Without looking back, he added, "Be careful what futures you choose to change," and left. Jacob remained frozen. The bell above the door rang softly as the stranger disappeared outside. Noah arrived 20 minutes later. Jacob immediately told him everything, every word, every detail. Noah listened carefully, then shook his head. "This keeps getting stranger." Jacob agreed. The mysterious camera, the changing future, the robber, the observer. Nothing made sense anymore. That evening, the camera activated again. The timestamp displayed 8:41 p.m. tomorrow. Jacob watched carefully. The footage showed the convenience store, nearly empty. Emily Ross entered. Just as before. She selected a bottle of water, approached the register. Then the masked robber entered. Again, this time the footage continued longer. The robber moved directly toward Emily. Not the cash register, not the safe. "Emily," Jacob frowned. "Why?" The stranger reached into his backpack, pulled out a small metal case, and handed it to her. Emily appeared shocked, terrified, confused. Then the footage ended. Jacob blinked. That wasn't a robbery, at least not a normal one. It looked more like a delivery, a secret exchange, a meeting. The realization changed everything. Perhaps the masked man wasn't trying to steal something. Perhaps he was trying to deliver something. But what? And why hide his identity? The next day became one of the most stressful days of Jacob's life. He knew exactly when the future event would occur, 8:41 p.m. And for the first time, he intended to intervene. Not because he wanted to, because he had to. Emily might be in danger. The footage clearly showed fear. Something was wrong, very wrong. At 8:35 p.m, Jacob locked the front door temporarily. Only 6 minutes remained. His heart pounded. Noah stood nearby. Together they waited. 8:08 p.m, nothing. 8:39 p.m, silence. The front door opened. Emily Ross entered. Exactly on schedule. Jacob immediately approached her. "Emily." She looked surprised. "Jacob, we need to talk." Emily frowned. About what? Jacob hesitated. How could he explain? He couldn't. Not truthfully. Instead, he improvised. "There's someone looking for you." Emily's face instantly changed. Fear. Real fear. Jacob noticed it immediately. His stomach tightened. She knew something. Who? The question came too quickly, too nervously. Jacob's suspicion grew. Before he could answer, the front door opened again. A man entered. Black hoodie, baseball cap, dark gloves, the masked stranger. Exactly as recorded. Emily's face turned pale. The man stopped several feet away. No one spoke. The entire store felt frozen. Then the stranger removed a small metal case from his backpack. Just like the footage. He placed it on the counter and slid it toward Emily. She stared, terrified. The man finally spoke. His voice was low, calm. "You need to take this." Emily shook her head. No. The stranger pushed the case closer. "You don't understand." Jacob stepped forward. "What's going on?" Neither person answered. Instead, Emily grabbed the case and ran. Straight out the front door. Gone. The stranger remained motionless, watching her leave. Then he turned toward Jacob. For a moment, Jacob expected violence, threats, anger. Instead, the man simply sighed. "You shouldn't have interfered." Then he left. Just like that. No explanation, no answers, only confusion. Jacob and Noah exchanged stunned looks. "What was that?" Noah asked. Jacob shook his head. "I have no idea." But deep down, he suspected the situation was far more serious than a simple robbery. Much more serious. 10 minutes later, the future camera activated again. A new recording appeared, and what Jacob saw made his blood run cold. Police lights, ambulances, emergency workers, exactly like before. But this time the image was clearer. The motionless person on the ground was visible, very visible. Jacob's heart nearly stopped. The person lying there was Emily Ross, unconscious, surrounded by paramedics, and beside her sat the same metal case. The recording ended immediately. Silence filled the store. Noah stared. Jacob stared. Neither spoke. Because they finally understood something terrifying. By interfering with the future event, they had made things worse. Much worse. The original footage never showed Emily injured. Now it did. The future had changed. Again. And each change seemed to push events toward greater danger. Jacob looked at the dark monitor. For the first time, genuine fear replaced curiosity. The camera wasn't helping him understand the future. It was trapping him inside it. Every attempt to prevent disaster created a different disaster. Every decision generated new consequences. And somewhere within all those changing possibilities, the truth remained hidden. As the store lights reflected across the black screen, Jacob realized something that would haunt him for the rest of the night. He wasn't just watching the future anymore. The future was reacting to him, and whatever game had begun, he was already a part of it. End of Chapter 3. Chapter 4, The Missing Hour. Learn English Through Story, Level 3. Jacob Reed sat alone in his office at the back of the convenience store. It was nearly midnight. The store had closed an hour ago. Outside, the city streets were quiet. A light rain tapped softly against the windows. Most people were asleep. Jacob wished he could be one of them. Instead, he stared at the security monitor. The same monitor that had turned his ordinary life upside down. The same monitor that somehow recorded tomorrow. And the same monitor that kept revealing pieces of a mystery that grew more dangerous every day. Emily Ross, the masked stranger, the metal case, the injured woman in the future footage. None of it made sense. Yet one thing was becoming increasingly clear. The camera wasn't simply showing random future events. Everything was connected. Every recording, every warning, every change. They formed pieces of a larger puzzle. A puzzle Jacob still couldn't see. He replayed the latest footage again. Emergency lights flashed across the screen. Paramedics surrounded Emily. The metal case rested beside her. Then the recording ended, just like always. Jacob rubbed his forehead. A headache was forming. Think. He spoke the word aloud, as if hearing it might help. The camera showed future events exactly 24 hours before they happened. That pattern had remained consistent from the beginning. Every recording, every prediction, exactly one day ahead. Except for one strange detail. One detail Jacob had almost ignored. The missing hour. Over the past few days he had noticed something unusual. Every future recording skipped a specific period of time. A gap, a blank space, a missing section. No matter which day he examined, footage between 11 p.m. and 12 a.m. never appeared. Never. The camera could show tomorrow morning, tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow evening, even tomorrow night. But that single hour remained completely invisible, as though someone had erased it or hidden it. Jacob didn't believe in coincidences anymore. If the camera refused to show that hour, there had to be a reason, and he intended to find out why. The following morning, Noah arrived carrying coffee. Jacob immediately explained his theory. Noah listened carefully. So you're saying the camera can show every future event except one specific hour? Jacob nodded. Exactly. And that hour is always missing? Always. Noah looked thoughtful. Maybe that's where the answers are. Jacob had been thinking the same thing. Because mysteries rarely hide important information in plain sight. They hide it where nobody can see. And apparently, nobody could see what happened between 11 and midnight. Not even the future camera. That afternoon, Jacob decided to test the theory. He carefully reviewed every future recording stored in the system. Hours passed. He took notes, made charts, compared timestamps. Eventually, a pattern emerged. Every major event connected to the mystery seemed to lead toward the missing hour. The robber, Emily Ross, the metal case, the observer in the grey coat. Everything pointed toward the same period of time. 11 p.m. to 12 a.m. Jacob stared at his notes. His pulse quickened. Whatever happened during that hour wasn't merely important. It was central to everything. That realization sent a chill down his spine. Because if the camera could show the future, yet couldn't show that particular hour, then perhaps something occurred during that time that even the camera couldn't predict, or wasn't allowed to reveal. That evening, something unexpected happened. Emily Ross entered the store. Jacob immediately recognized her. She looked exhausted, nervous, distracted. More importantly, she was carrying the metal case. Jacob's heart nearly stopped. The same case from the future recordings. The same case that appeared beside her injured body. The same case the masked stranger had delivered. Emily approached the counter. "Can we talk?" Her voice sounded uneasy. Jacob nodded. A few moments later, they sat in the small office behind the store. The metal case rested on the table between them. Neither person touched it. For several seconds, silence filled the room. Finally, Emily spoke. "Someone is following me." Jacob's pulse accelerated. The statement didn't surprise him. Not anymore. "Who?" Emily shook her head. "I don't know." She looked toward the case. "But I think it has something to do with this." Jacob studied her expression. Fear. Real fear. The same fear he had seen in future recordings. "What's inside?" Emily hesitated. "I haven't opened it." Jacob blinked. "What?" She nodded. "I was told not to." "Told by who?" "The man who gave it to me. The masked stranger." There. Jacob leaned forward. "What did he say?" Emily lowered her voice. "He said if I open it before midnight, people could die." Silence filled the office. Jacob wasn't sure whether to laugh or panic. The statement sounded ridiculous. Yet almost everything connected to the mystery sounded ridiculous. And somehow, all of it kept proving true. The conversation ended abruptly when the front door bell rang. A customer had entered. "He's in." Jacob returned to the store. By the time he finished helping the customer, Emily was gone. So was the case. Only questions remained. Later that night, the future camera activated again. The screen flickered. The timestamp appeared. 10:42 p.m. tomorrow. Jacob focused immediately. The footage showed the convenience store. Empty. Silent. Then Emily entered carrying the case. She looked frightened, more frightened than ever before. The camera followed her movements carefully. She approached the counter, looked around nervously, checked the front window, then opened the metal case. Jacob's eyes widened. Finally, answers. Slowly, the lid lifted. The camera angle prevented him from seeing inside. Frustratingly, he could only observe Emily's reaction, and her reaction was terrifying. The colour drained from her face. She stepped backward, dropped the lid, and whispered something the camera couldn't hear. Then the footage abruptly ended. Not because of static, not because of interference, because the timestamp reached at 11 p.m. and instantly disappeared. The missing hour, again. Jacob slammed his hand against the desk. Come on. The frustration overwhelmed him. The answer had been seconds away. Seconds. And the camera cut away. Exactly at 11. Noah arrived moments later. Jacob showed him the recording. Noah watched carefully, then frowned. Whatever's inside that case, he didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Jacob understood. Whatever Emily saw frightened her badly, very badly. The next day became a race against time. If Emily would open the case tomorrow night at 10:42 p.m., then Jacob needed to stop her, or at least be present when it happened. He couldn't allow the future to unfold without understanding it, especially now. As evening approached, tension filled the store. The clock seemed unusually loud. Every minute mattered. Every second felt important. At 10:35 p.m., Emily entered, carrying the case exactly as predicted. Jacob immediately approached her. Emily. She stopped. Her eyes revealed surprise, then concern. You know about the case, don't you? Jacob hesitated. The truth would sound insane, yet there was no time for lies. I know you're planning to open it. Jacob ignored the question. Don't do it alone. For a moment she considered refusing, then slowly nodded. Together they moved into the office. The case sat on the table. The clock displayed 10:41 p.m. 1 minute remained. Jacob's pulse thundered. Emily's hands trembled. Neither spoke. The room felt impossibly still. Then the clock changed. 10:42 p.m. Emily unlocked the case, slowly, carefully. The lid opened. Inside rested a collection of documents, photographs, flash drives, and one handwritten note. Jacob blinked. That was all. No bomb, no weapon, no dangerous device. Just information. Emily picked up the note, read it, and immediately turned pale. What is it? As she handed the paper to Jacob, his heart pounded as he read. The note contained only one sentence. The answer is in the missing hour. Silence filled the office. Jacob stared at the words. Again and again. The answer. The missing hour. Someone knew. Someone understood exactly what the camera was hiding. And now they were pointing directly toward it. Before either person could speak, every light inside the store suddenly went out. Darkness swallowed the room. The refrigerators stopped humming. The cash registers shut down. The security monitors died. Power failure. Total. Instant. Outside, the entire street became dark. Jacob looked through the window. The city block had lost power. Then something even stranger happened. The future camera flickered back to life. Despite having no electricity, the monitor glowed softly. Impossible. Completely impossible. Yet there it was. The screen displayed a single image, a digital clock, nothing else. Just a clock counting down. 59 minutes, 58 minutes, 57 minutes. Jacob's blood ran cold. The countdown had begun exactly at 11 p.m., the beginning of the missing hour. For the first time, the camera wasn't hiding it. It was acknowledging it, recognizing it, perhaps even warning him about it. Emily stared at the screen. Noah stared at the screen. Jacob stared at the screen. None of them understood what they were seeing. But they all understood one thing. The missing hour was no longer a mystery. It was a destination. And whatever happened when that countdown reached 0 would change everything. As the glowing numbers continued decreasing in the darkness, Jacob felt a deep sense of dread settle inside him. The camera had been leading him somewhere from the very beginning, toward this moment, toward this hour, toward this countdown. And for the first time since the impossible recordings began, he wasn't sure he wanted to know what came next. End of chapter 4. 5. The Stranger on the Screen. Learn English through story. Level 3. Jacob Reed couldn't take his eyes off the countdown. The convenience store remained completely dark. Outside, the entire city block had lost power. Streetlights were dead. Traffic signals were dark. Store signs no longer glowed. Only one source of light remained. The future camera. The impossible camera. The machine that should not have been working. Yet somehow, despite the blackout, its monitor continued shining in the darkness, and on the screen, the countdown continued. 54. Emily Ross stood beside Jacob. Noah Bennett stood near the office door. Neither spoke. The silence felt heavy, almost unnatural. Finally, Noah broke it. What happens when it reaches 0? Jacob swallowed. I don't know. It was the truth. For once, he genuinely had no idea what came next. The camera had shown future robberies, future accidents, future warnings, but never anything like this. Now it wasn't showing tomorrow. It was showing a countdown connected to the missing hour, the one period of time the camera had always refused to reveal. And somehow Jacob knew the answer to every mystery was waiting at the end of that countdown. The minutes passed slowly, painfully slowly. Nobody left. Nobody moved. At 11:18 p.m., the screen suddenly changed. The countdown disappeared. A new image appeared. A man. Jacob immediately recognized him. The stranger in the grey coat, the observer, the same man who had entered the store days earlier, the same man who had warned him, the same man who somehow knew about the future camera. Now he was standing directly in front of the screen, looking straight into it, looking straight at Jacob. A chill ran down Jacob's spine. The recording looked recent, almost live. The stranger adjusted his glasses, then spoke. Unlike previous footage, this recording had sound. Clear sound. Jacob Reed. Jacob froze. The man knew his name. If you're seeing this, you've reached the missing hour. Emily exchanged a nervous glance with Noah. The stranger continued. You probably have many questions. Jacob whispered, You're right. The man smiled faintly. The first question is always the same. He leaned closer. How can a security camera record the future? Jacob's pulse quickened. Finally, answers. The stranger folded his hands. My name is Daniel Mercer. The name meant nothing to Jacob, but Daniel clearly expected it to. 20 years ago, I worked for a technology company called Horizon Dynamics. The screen flickered briefly. Images appeared beside him. Laboratories, computers, scientists, engineers. Daniel continued. Horizon Dynamics wasn't building cameras, he paused. We were building prediction systems. Jacob frowned. Prediction systems? Daniel nodded, as though hearing the question. Our goal was simple. He pointed toward the camera. We wanted machines capable of receiving information before events occurred. The room fell silent. Noah laughed nervously. That's impossible. Daniel looked directly into the camera. So did we. The image changed again. Old photographs appeared, scientific diagrams, experimental equipment, research documents. Daniel continued. Most experiments failed. Then one succeeded. Jacob felt his pulse accelerate. The camera. Daniel nodded. Not intentionally. The answer surprised everyone. We never meant to create a machine that could see tomorrow. His expression darkened. It happened during an accident. The screen displayed a laboratory. Machines surrounded a central chamber. Scientists rushed through the room. Warning lights flashed. Then the image froze. Daniel spoke quietly. A quantum communication experiment malfunctioned. The system collapsed, and one security camera received information 24 hours before it existed. Jacob stared. The explanation sounded impossible, yet no more impossible than everything else he had experienced. Daniel continued. We shut the project down immediately. Most records were destroyed. Most equipment disappeared. His voice lowered, except one camera. The image zoomed toward Jacob's monitor, his monitor, the very camera sitting inside the convenience store. Jacob's stomach tightened. For days he had wondered where it came from. Now he finally knew. Daniel sighed. We thought it was gone. The screen flickered again. Daniel appeared older, tired, regretful. I spent years searching for it. His eyes met Jacob's, and now you found it. Jacob stepped closer. Why does it show the future? Daniel smiled sadly. That's the wrong question. Jacob frowned. Then what's the right question? Daniel's answer came immediately. Why is it showing you the future? Silence filled the room. The question hit harder than Jacob expected, because he had never considered it. Why him? Why his store? Why now? Daniel continued. The camera doesn't randomly select people. It responds. Jacob's pulse quickened. Responds to what? Daniel hesitated, then answered. Major events. The room felt colder. Daniel pointed toward the countdown. The camera activates when something important approaches. Something capable of changing many lives. Jacob exchanged a glance with Emily. The blackout, the robber, the metal case, the emergency footage. Everything suddenly felt connected. Daniel continued, that's why the missing hour exists. Jacob immediately focused. Finally, the missing hour, the greatest mystery. The camera can't see beyond certain points of instability. Daniel spoke carefully. Moments when too many futures become possible. What does that mean? Daniel answered with a simple example. If you toss a coin, there are only two outcomes, heads or tails. But some moments create thousands, millions, billions. The screen displayed branching lines, like a tree. Future possibilities splitting endlessly. The missing hour is one of those moments. Jacob stared. So the camera doesn't know what happens? Daniel nodded. Exactly. For the first time the mystery made sense. The camera wasn't hiding the hour. It couldn't calculate it. Too many possibilities existed, too many futures, too many outcomes. Then Emily stepped forward. What about the case? Daniel's expression changed. Serious, very serious. The case is why this began. Jacob felt his heart pound. The metal case sat nearby, silent, ordinary, yet apparently important enough to trigger everything. Daniel continued. Inside those flash drives is evidence, evidence someone once erased. Emily's face paled. Jacob immediately understood. The robber, the pursuit, the fear. It had never been about money. It had been about information, dangerous information. Daniel nodded. The people searching for that evidence are very close. Almost immediately, a loud sound echoed outside. Tires screeched. Jacob rushed toward the window. 3 black vehicles had stopped outside the store. His stomach dropped. Men stepped out, several men, all wearing dark clothing, all moving with purpose. Noah whispered, "That's not good." Jacob agreed. Not good at all. The front door rattled violently. Someone was trying to enter. Emily backed away from the entrance. Fear filled her eyes. Daniel's voice emerged from the monitor one final time. "Listen carefully." Everyone turned back toward the screen. The stranger looked directly at Jacob. The future is not fixed. Jacob remembered the robber, the changing recordings, the altered outcomes. Daniel continued. Every choice creates a new path. The screen flickered. The camera was never meant to predict destiny. It was meant to provide opportunity. Outside, another impact struck the door. Louder, harder. The glass began cracking. Daniel spoke quickly. "Jacob." For the first time, his voice sounded urgent. "You've spent days watching tomorrow. Now stop watching." Jacob stared. "What?" Daniel smiled. "Start living it." The screen suddenly went black. The monitor died, completely. No countdown, no image, no light, nothing. At that exact moment, the power returned. The store lights flickered on. The refrigerators hummed. Cash registers rebooted. Everything returned to normal, except the camera. The future camera remained dark. Forever. Outside, police sirens suddenly echoed through the streets. The approaching men scattered immediately. Vehicles sped away. Within seconds, they disappeared. Gone. Jacob stared through the window, confused, relieved, exhausted. Then he noticed something. The police arrival wasn't coincidence. A future recording must have shown it. And somehow, someone had acted on that information. Someone had changed events before disaster occurred. For the first time, Jacob understood Daniel's final lesson. The camera wasn't valuable because it showed tomorrow. It was valuable because it reminded people they could change tomorrow. And that realization changed everything. As midnight approached, Jacob looked at the now empty monitor. No future footage appeared. No warnings, no predictions. The impossible machine had finally gone silent. Yet strangely, he didn't feel disappointed. He felt free. Because for the first time since this mystery began, tomorrow belonged to him again. Not to a recording, not to a prediction, not to a machine. To him. And somewhere in the back of his mind, one question remained. Who exactly was Daniel Mercer? Because despite all the answers he provided, Jacob suspected the stranger still hadn't revealed the whole truth. And deep down, he knew their paths would cross again. Very soon. End of Chapter 5. Chapter 6, The Day the City Went Dark. Learn English through story, Level 3. Jacob Reed didn't sleep that night. After the power outage, the countdown, and Daniel Mercer's mysterious message, sleep felt impossible. His mind replayed everything over and over again. The future recordings, the robber, Emily Ross, the metal case, the missing hour, and finally Daniel's warning. The future is not fixed. The words echoed in his mind. For days, Jacob had believed the camera was showing him destiny. Something unavoidable, something permanent. But now he wasn't so sure. Every time he interfered, the future changed. The recordings changed. The outcomes changed. The future behaved less like a road and more like a river constantly shifting direction. And somehow Jacob had become part of its flow. At 6 o'clock the next morning, Jacob unlocked the convenience store. The city looked normal. Cars moved through the streets. People hurried toward work. Coffee shops opened. Delivery trucks made their rounds. Nothing seemed wrong. Yet Jacob couldn't shake the feeling that something terrible was approaching. Something bigger than anything he had seen so far. Emily arrived shortly after opening. The metal case rested under her arm. Noah arrived 10 minutes later. For the first time, all three sat together before opening the store to customers. The atmosphere felt tense. Nobody wanted to admit it, but everyone felt it. A storm was coming, not a weather storm. Something worse. Emily placed the case on the counter. I checked the flash drives. Jacob immediately looked up. You opened them? She nodded. Last night. Noah leaned forward. What was on them? Emily hesitated. The fear in her eyes returned instantly. A lot of files, company records, financial reports, emails. She swallowed hard. And evidence. Jacob's stomach tightened. Evidence of what? Emily took a deep breath. Horizon Dynamics. The name immediately caught Jacob's attention. Daniel had mentioned Horizon Dynamics, the technology company connected to the future camera. Emily continued. The files show that someone inside Horizon continued secret experiments after the project officially ended. Jacob frowned. Experiments involving the camera. Emily nodded. And much more. She opened the case and removed several printed documents. Maps, technical diagrams, infrastructure plans, network schematics. Noah stared. What am I looking at? Emily pointed to one page. The city's electrical control network. Jacob felt a chill. Why would Horizon Dynamics possess information like that? Emily answered before he could ask. Because someone is planning an attack. Silence filled the room. Jacob blinked. An attack? Emily nodded slowly. A cyber attack. The words felt unreal. This isn't about the store. This isn't about me. This isn't even about the camera. She looked directly at Jacob. It's about the city. Jacob's heart began pounding. Suddenly dozens of disconnected events started fitting together. The strange robber. The mysterious case. The observer. The countdown. The blackout. Maybe they had all been warning him about the same thing. One disaster. A disaster that hadn't happened yet. At 8:12 a.m., the future camera flickered back to life. All three froze. The screen illuminated. The timestamp appeared. Match 8:12 a.m. tomorrow. Jacob immediately focused. The footage showed downtown Brookhaven. Traffic moved normally. Pedestrians crossed streets. Businesses operated. Everything appeared ordinary. Then every screen went black. Traffic lights failed. Street lights died. Buildings lost power. The entire city darkened, exactly as though someone had flipped a giant switch. People stopped, cars slowed, confusion spread. Then the footage became worse, much worse. Without traffic signals, vehicles entered intersections simultaneously. Several collisions occurred. Emergency sirens filled the streets. Hospitals switched to backup generators. Subway trains stopped underground. Elevators trapped people inside. Panic spread rapidly. Jacob watched in horror. The city wasn't simply losing power. It was collapsing into chaos. The footage continued. A bridge crossing near downtown became congested. Vehicles blocked every lane. Emergency services couldn't pass. Then a tanker truck lost control. The recording ended immediately. Silence filled the room. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. Because everyone understood. The tanker truck represented disaster. A major disaster. Jacob slowly exhaled. This is what the camera has been warning us about. Emily nodded. I think so. Noah stared at the dark screen. If that truck crashes... He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Everyone understood. The citywide blackout wasn't the disaster. The blackout triggered the disaster. The real danger came afterward. Jacob immediately stood. We have to stop it. Emily frowned. How? Jacob didn't know, but doing nothing wasn't an option. Not anymore. The rest of the morning became a race against time. Emily examined files from the flash drives. Noah contacted several trusted friends working in technology and infrastructure. Jacob reviewed every future recording again, searching for clues, searching for patterns, searching for anything. Hours passed. Finally, Emily discovered something, a hidden file, buried deep within Horizon Dynamics records. Her eyes widened. I found it. Jacob hurried over. What? Emily pointed toward her laptop. A list of locations appeared. Electrical substations, communication centers, network hubs. One location was highlighted, Central Grid Control Facility. Jacob frowned. What is it? Emily's expression darkened. The attack starts here. The realization hit immediately. Someone intended to disable the city's power systems. And they knew exactly where to do it. Noah checked the time. If tomorrow's footage is correct, we don't have much time. He was right. The attack would occur the following day. Less than 24 hours remained. That evening, Jacob returned home exhausted, yet sleep remained impossible. Around midnight, his phone rang, unknown number. Jacob answered cautiously. A familiar voice greeted him. Daniel Mercer. Jacob immediately sat upright. Daniel? Good. The engineer sounded relieved. You're still alive, Jacob frowned. Should I be worried about that? Daniel ignored the question. Instead, he asked one of his own. Did you see tomorrow? Jacob nodded. The blackout. Daniel's voice became serious. Then listen carefully. Jacob focused. This is bigger than you think. The words sent a chill through him. Daniel continued. The people behind the attack know about the camera. Jacob froze. What? They've known for years. The revelation felt like a punch. Jacob's pulse accelerated. Everything suddenly made more sense. The robber, the pursuit, the secrecy. Someone had been searching for the technology, searching for the future. Daniel spoke quickly. They want control. The same thing everyone wanted. Jacob remembered Daniel's earlier warning. Power, influence, advantage. Knowing tomorrow would make all three possible. Daniel continued. The attack isn't just about causing chaos. It's a distraction. Jacob frowned. For what? Daniel hesitated, then answered, for stealing what's left of the project. Silence filled the room. The future camera, the technology, the experiments, everything. The attack wasn't the objective. It was cover. Cover for something much larger. The call ended minutes later. Jacob remained awake until sunrise. The next day arrived. The day shown in the recording. The day the city would go dark. Every second mattered. Every decision mattered. By noon, Jacob, Emily, and Noah had gathered enough evidence to contact authorities. Unlike earlier attempts, this time they had proof, real proof, documents, files, technical plans. Investigators immediately took notice. Security agencies became involved. Infrastructure teams mobilized. Emergency protocols activated quietly across the city. The response remained secret. The attackers couldn't know they were discovered. As evening approached, tension spread everywhere. The city appeared normal. Yet beneath the surface, preparations were underway. At exactly 7:48 p.m., alarms sounded inside the central grid control facility. The attack had begun. Cyber security teams reacted instantly. Systems isolated, networks disconnected, emergency defenses activated. For several terrifying minutes, the city's power fluctuated. Lights flickered, traffic signals blinked, communication networks struggled. Then, nothing. The blackout never happened. The attack failed. Completely. Jacob stared at the news coverage later that night. The future recording had changed. Again, the disaster no longer existed. The tanker truck never crashed. The bridge remained open. The city remained safe. For the first time since discovering the impossible camera, Jacob felt genuine relief. Not because he understood everything, because people were safe. Thousands of people, maybe millions of future possibilities, protected. As midnight approached, the future camera activated one final time. The screen flickered softly. A new recording appeared, not of tomorrow, not of the city, not of a disaster. Instead, it showed the convenience store. Quiet, peaceful, normal. Then words appeared across the screen. The future has changed. Jacob stared. A second message appeared. Well done. Then the monitor went dark. Completely dark. Jacob sat silently for several moments. The journey wasn't over. Daniel still held secrets. The camera still had unanswered mysteries, and Horizon Dynamics still cast a long shadow. But one thing was certain. The city survived. The future survived. And tomorrow would arrive because ordinary people chose to act. Not because they knew the future, but because they were willing to protect it. End of Chapter 6. Chapter 7. The Truth Behind the Camera. Learn English Through Story, Level 3. Jacob Reed stood in the middle of his convenience store and stared at the dark security monitor. For the first time in days, the screen showed nothing. No future recordings, no warnings, no countdowns, no impossible glimpses of tomorrow. Just a blank reflection staring back at him. His own reflection. The camera was gone, or at least its power was. After the events of the blackout and Daniel Mercer's message, the mysterious device had stopped working completely. Normal security footage continued recording. Past events, present events, the way cameras were supposed to work. But the future? That had vanished. And yet Jacob couldn't shake the feeling that the story wasn't over. Not even close. 3 days had passed since the blackout. 3 quiet days, 3 normal days. Or as normal as life could be after discovering that a security camera could see tomorrow. Customers came and went. Shelves were stocked. Coffee was sold. Business continued. But Jacob noticed something strange. He missed it. Not the fear, not the stress, not the sleepless nights. He missed knowing. Knowing what tomorrow held. Knowing what dangers waited ahead. Knowing what choices might matter. For days he had lived with certainty. Now he was back to uncertainty. Back to being human. One rainy afternoon, Noah entered the store carrying 2 coffees. He handed one to Jacob. "You've been staring at that monitor for 10 minutes. Jacob smiled. "Old habit," Noah laughed. "Still hoping it'll start predicting the future again?" Jacob took a sip. "Maybe." Noah shook his head. "I think we've had enough future for one lifetime." Jacob wanted to agree, but something deep inside told him there was still one missing piece. One unanswered question. Daniel Mercer, the mysterious engineer, the man who seemed to know everything, the man who appeared exactly when the mystery reached its peak, the man who vanished immediately afterward. Jacob still didn't know who he really was, and that bothered him a lot. That evening, after closing the store, Jacob found something unusual beneath the counter. An envelope, plain white. No stamp, no address, no return label, just one word written across the front. Jacob, his heart immediately accelerated. Nobody should have been able to enter the locked store, nobody. Slowly he opened the envelope. Inside was a handwritten note. The message contained only one sentence. Warehouse 17, midnight. Nothing else, no explanation, no signature. Yet somehow Jacob already knew who sent it. Daniel Mercer. Midnight arrived quickly. Warehouse 17 sat near the old industrial district at the edge of the city. Most buildings there had been abandoned for years. Broken windows, rusting fences, empty parking lots. The entire area felt forgotten. Jacob parked nearby and stepped into the cold night air. The warehouse stood silent beneath the moonlight. A single light glowed inside. Someone was waiting. Jacob entered cautiously. The enormous building echoed with every footstep. Rows of old machinery filled the shadows. Dust covered the floor. The air smelled of metal and age. Then he saw him. Daniel Mercer, standing beside a large table. The engineer looked exactly as before, grey coat, calm expression, sharp eyes. Daniel smiled. "I was wondering if you'd come." Jacob crossed his arms. "I have questions." Daniel nodded. "I know. You always did." The answer surprised Jacob. "What does that mean?" Daniel gestured toward a chair. "Sit." Jacob remained standing. "I'd rather have answers." Daniel chuckled softly. "Fair enough." For several seconds neither man spoke. Then Jacob asked the question that had haunted him for days. "Who are you really?" Daniel's smile faded. The warehouse suddenly felt quieter, more serious. Finally Daniel answered. "I told you I worked for Horizon Dynamics. That part was true." Jacob waited. "But I didn't tell you everything." His voice lowered. "Because I wasn't only an engineer." Jacob frowned. "What were you?" Daniel looked directly at him. "The project leader." Silence filled the warehouse. Jacob blinked. The revelation landed heavily. The project leader, the person responsible for the technology, the person who understood the camera better than anyone else. Daniel nodded. "The future camera existed because of me." Jacob stared. Years of regret suddenly appeared in Daniel's eyes. "I created the system. And I spent 20 years trying to undo it." The confession shocked Jacob. Daniel walked slowly across the warehouse. "When the accident happened, we thought we had created a miracle." Images appeared on old computer monitors nearby. Research notes, blueprints, photographs. Daniel continued. "A machine that could receive information before events occurred." His expression darkened. "We thought humanity would benefit, prevent disasters, stop crimes, save lives." Jacob nodded. Those possibilities had crossed his mind too. Daniel sighed. "But that's not what happened." The old monitors displayed newspaper headlines, economic crashes, political scandals, corporate failures. Every organization that learned about the technology wanted the same thing. What? Control. The answer came immediately. Daniel continued. "Nobody wanted to save the future. They wanted to own it." The warehouse fell silent again. Jacob understood. People would use future knowledge for power, money, influence, advantage. Daniel nodded. "That's why the project was shut down. We destroyed almost everything." Almost. The final surviving camera had somehow escaped destruction, and eventually ended up inside Jacob's store. The question that followed had bothered Jacob from the beginning. "Why my store?" Daniel smiled. "Because it wasn't random." Jacob's pulse quickened. "What do you mean?" Daniel walked toward a dusty filing cabinet, opened a drawer, removed a folder, then handed it to Jacob. Inside were documents, old photographs, property records, ownership forms. Jacob examined them carefully, then froze. His name appeared repeatedly. His father's name, his grandfather's name, the store, the property, the building, it's everything connected. "What is this?" Daniel smiled. "The camera wasn't hidden in your store." He paused. "It was hidden beneath your store." Jacob stared. "What?" Daniel nodded. "The original Horizon Dynamics laboratory stood exactly where your convenience store stands today." The world seemed to stop. The laboratory, the accident, the camera, the future recordings. All of it began beneath his feet. For years Jacob had walked above the secret without knowing it existed. Daniel continued. "When the facility closed, everything was buried. Most people forgot it ever existed." but the camera remained. Jacob finally understood. The camera hadn't chosen him. It had simply returned home. The realization felt strangely comforting and strangely unsettling. Then Jacob remembered something, the citywide blackout. Daniel nodded. That was the real event. The answer immediately captured Jacob's attention. The robber wasn't important. Emily wasn't the target. The missing hour wasn't hiding a crime. Daniel folded his arms. It was hiding a catastrophe. The warehouse monitors illuminated. Maps appeared. Electrical grids, infrastructure diagrams, transportation networks. Daniel pointed toward them. A cyber attack. Jacob stared. A coordinated attack on the city's systems. Power, traffic, emergency communications, everything. Daniel continued. If successful, hundreds of people would have been injured, possibly killed. Jacob felt a chill run down his spine. The scale was far larger than he imagined. The future camera hadn't been focused on one robbery, one woman, one store. It had been guiding him towards something much bigger. Daniel nodded. Every recording pushed you closer to the truth. The robber, the case, the missing hour, they were clues, pieces of a path designed to prevent disaster. Jacob frowned. Designed by who? For the first time, Daniel smiled. A version of me. Jacob blinked. What? Daniel laughed softly. I told you the camera received information from the future. Jacob nodded slowly. Daniel pointed toward the old monitors. The warnings didn't originate in the present. They originated decades ahead. Silence filled the warehouse. The implication was staggering. Future versions of Horizon scientists had found a way to send information backward. Not people, not objects, just fragments, messages, recordings, warnings. Enough to influence events, enough to save lives. Daniel nodded. The camera wasn't broken. It was helping. Jacob finally understood. The device had never been predicting the future. It had been communicating, trying to steer events, trying to prevent disaster. And somehow, it had succeeded. The cyber attack failed. The blackout ended. The city survived. The future changed. Exactly as intended. Daniel looked at him carefully. Do you know why the camera stopped working? Jacob shook his head. No. Daniel smiled. Because it completed its purpose. The answer felt surprisingly emotional. All those warnings, all those mysteries, all those sleepless nights. They had been leading toward one outcome, a better future. Daniel extended his hand. You helped save a lot of people, Jacob. Jacob shook it. For the first time since the mystery began, he felt peace. Real peace. No countdowns, no warnings, no future recordings, just understanding. As he turned to leave, Daniel spoke one final sentence. The future was never meant to be watched. Jacob smiled. He recognized the words, the final message from the camera. Daniel nodded. It was meant to be lived. Jacob stepped outside. The night sky stretched above him. Clear, quiet, infinite. For days he had been obsessed with tomorrow, trying to see it, control it, understand it. Now he finally realized something important. Tomorrow didn't need to be known. It needed to be earned. And for the first time in a very long time, Jacob felt excited about the future precisely because he couldn't see it. The end.